What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video, and in this one I want to talk about Tesla stock and the overall market and break down some very important levels to be watching for. I'm also going to talk about some other technicals which are very important for today and what you should be watching for as time goes on. But let me first say that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, deposit $100 into the account, you're guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed up to 15 free stocks. The offer ends very soon. Anyways, when it comes to the market right now, I want to call out something very, very important that's going on. Looking at Tesla, in my video from yesterday, I said Tesla's going to likely basically like kiss 234, and it's likely going to try to bounce from there. And that's what ended up happening today. We hit 234.9. So I was off by like zero point 0.9 dollars, very, very close though, very close to our 200 EMA on the daily, and Tesla's holding up very nicely. Now, the thing is, although Tesla's trying to hold up, I have a warning for everyone because when you look at the chart yesterday, Tesla bounced yesterday. It actually pushed up to 242, and then the move failed, and Tesla came all the way back down to 237, had a very weak close. That's why, this led to this second sell off, especially going to today with all the bad news that came out as Tesla hit 234. Now, what happened was a lot of mainstream outlets started saying in the morning that, oh, there's a big recall, 1.62 million Tesla cars are on recall, and Tesla dropped kind of hard during the pre-market. But here's the thing, I have a big but. Uh, it wasn't a real recall. It's just a software update which Tesla's going to use to fix it. So this is why Tesla, I guess, it didn't really crash extremely hard. And on top of that, something else happened. So Tesla was very weak when we opened. It was very, very weak looking, trading sideways. Same thing with SPY. We were very weak when we started off this day, right? Tesla was all the way down in the 236s, not looking that strong. It actually touched 234 when we opened. So it was very weak in the beginning, but this was just a liquidity grab. And the reason for that is because these market makers were getting ready to pump the markets. That's why the market was very weak in the beginning, and the market started pumping as a result of this data. Tesla was pumping a little bit earlier, but this data helped the whole market hold up, which ended up helping Tesla. So what basically happened was the ISM services PMI was a little bit below expectations. Nothing too bad though. The business activity was close, a little bit hotter than expected. Employment was very mixed. New orders were a little bit below expectations, which could be very good for disinflation. And then the services prices were a little bit below expectations, which is once again good for disinflation. So the data was pretty decent overall. This helped the market hold up. And let me just prove to you that I'm telling the truth, because I know some people question this. Look at how SPY was moving, guys. Check this out. So SPY was trading flat. We were at 468, and the 468s at around 10 o'clock a.m. and starting at 10:01 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, a minute after this data came out, SPY blasted from 468 all the way up to about 470.4 within 10 and a half minutes. Within 11 minutes, it pushed very nicely, and since then it's been holding and uptrending and uptrending. The data is what kicked off the move to the upside. Now, is it seriously just all this data that causes this? For the most part, yes, in a way, because you could argue that these institutions they use this data as an excuse to move liquidity in the markets. So technically, regardless of whether or not it is actually the data, the point is the data, still caused, or at least it's used as this excuse for these hedge funds, for these institutions to move liquidity. So technically, it still is the data that's causing these reactions, and that's the reason why I constantly talk about data on this channel, because this is the thing that a lot of these other channels don't do. They talk about volatility, they talk about technicals, but what about the things that are being used as the reasons to move liquidity? That's why it's very important to always look at the trading economics data. That's why it's very important to look at data. It affects the market. Even Tesla got affected by it too. So for Tesla basically pushed, the data came out, right? And we got this big green bar. So at first it dropped to 234. This is where it touched this very important support. I called this out in the morning, the 234s. It wasn't exact, guys, because it was 234.9. It could have gone down to 234 flats and then bounced off to 200 EMA. It was very close, though, not exact. And then what happened was, right before the data came out, Tesla was at about 237. As the data came out, Tesla pushed up to almost 240, traded sideways for some time, and it's slowly holding up very close to this 240 zone, 239 to 240. So the data did help Tesla push a bit. It also helped SPY and the QQQ push very nicely. The QQQ also got dictated by Nvidia. I called out an inverse head and shoulders on Nvidia that's playing out too. So now let's just go over the charts. So Tesla is now treating 240 as resistance. Then we also have 242 above that, followed by 244. For support, watch 238. If that fails us, then we have 236-ish, followed by 235. If that failed us, then we have the 234 zone, that 200 EMA. If that failed us, then we end up failing much lower, but we ended up bouncing off support, holding up nicely. My only warning for you guys is what happened yesterday was Tesla pumped for a couple of hours and ended up dumping. So we're going to be watching to see if Tesla could hold these levels. If Tesla could close to where we are, or if it closes above 240, we're going to be set for a nice bounce next week. Possibly we could see Tesla start uptrending and make its way back into the mid to high 240s for a nice squeeze. Okay. There's potential for a squeeze next week, a mini one, if we could try to hold and close above 240, in my opinion. So we're going to be watching to see if Tesla could do this. That's going to be very important. So watch that level and let's see how Tesla tries to hold. I'm going to be very patient. As a trader, I actually took most of my profits already. Non-financial advice. I do have like a couple of runners, but they're very, very minor positions. I guaranteed and secured a green day, at least when it comes to trading. And I'm just going to wait, basically. I'm going to be very patient when it comes to my analysis. Let's see how we end up closing. Let's see if this move fails or not. So make sure you watch the levels I called out. If we break this resistance, always look at the next level. I have the next levels already marked here. You could see what the next levels are. So Tesla's trading sideways between 239 to 240. Let's see if we could close above that. We're going to be in a very good place for next week if we do. As far as SPY goes, I want to call out SPY now. SPY, in my opinion, is looking pretty good. So we got a nice breakout. So we basically came down this channel. We started to break out. I told you if we break 468, we're going to favor the bulls. We broke 468. If we rejected off this, we could have turned bearish. This was actually very difficult to predict whether or not we'd get a breakout because SPY just reacted to the data. As soon as the data came out, SPY is just launched up. So there's no way I could have truly made any promises. That's why I broke down the levels. But this time around, we got a nice bounce, and that's why we're going to be watching these levels. Make sure you watch. Let me actually show you something important. The 4-hour is looking pretty good on SPY. We're going to be watching resistance at the 20 EMA at 470. Then we have 471 up next at the 50 EMA. I'm going to be watching those as resistance. If we break 470, basically our next level is 471. If that breaks, there's some resistance at 471.6 to 472. If we get above 472, our next target is going to be 474. For support, make sure you're watching 469. If that fails us, there's 468. 468 is going to be critical. We need to try to hold above that. If we lose that, there's 467 and then the blue trend line at 466. So yesterday, SPY pumped and dumped. Watch and see, does this thing pump and then dump back down, or do we end up holding around this level? That's going to be key for today. Let's see if we could close to where we are. Max pain for SPY is currently at 468. We have a very mixed options chain. We have almost the same amount of puts and calls expiring at over 550,000 with the 1.02 puts to call ratio. So we'll see if SPY holds up. Do we close to max pain at 460 or do we hold up? We'll see. And for now, make sure you watch the levels very carefully. It is retracing just a bit, but we'll just see if it tries to get bought back up. We'll watch and see if SPY gets a rejection or not. Remember, yesterday this thing rejected. Close to this level, it rejected and came back down. So always be prepared for that possibility just to be safe. If you're scalping, by the way, look at the smaller time frames. I like to use the 5 minutes and the 30 minutes time frames just to see direction. So watch those very carefully just to be safe, guys. I just want to give you guys a heads up about that. Now let me just go over a couple more tickers. Nvidia, my call out on Nvidia was very good yesterday. Not trying to brag, guys. I do make mistakes. I'm a human, but sometimes I make good calls. I told you we had a nice inverse head and shoulder structure on Nvidia. I told you Nvidia is going to likely outperform the market. I told you it's going to likely be in this channel. But if we ended up breaking 485, expect a big push. We broke 485. We broke out of the channel. So we got this nice push up to 495. The inverse head and shoulders like structure from yesterday panned out. If you want to be bearish, you want to see it lose 480 and end up breaking that. So now it's holding up very nicely. We have this trend line, and this is going to look a little messy, guys. I apologize about that, but you guys can see this, hopefully. We have this blue trend line. It's a little hard to see this long blue trend line right here. This was previous support on Nvidia, and now it's going to become resistance around 495. So we're going to be watching that resistance on Nvidia, see how it holds around here. For support, make sure you're watching. Basically, we have some support right here. We're going to be watching just under 493. We have some support there. 492.5 technically has some very minor support. 490, 488, and then below that we have this 486 range, which is where this trend line happens to be, followed by 485. Those are all supports. Resistance, watch 495. If we try to break this, watch 498 to 500. But right now we're testing the blue trend line as resistance, so watch that very carefully. As long as Nvidia closes above 490, it's going to be in a decent place. We'll see how it closes. We'll be watching this carefully. It's outperforming the market. It's doing very well, so it's holding up very, very nicely. On the QQQ, very similar to SPY, this got launched thanks to Nvidia. And here's the thing about the QQQ. Remember this green trend line right here, this green line right here? This was our resistance. We broke above our white line of resistance, right? We had this resistance right here where this white line was. We broke above this. Now we're testing the green line, right? So I know I'm just trying to like really simplify this so that anyone could understand this. It's very simple technical analysis. 399.64 is a very important level. If we break this, we're going to be watching 400. Then above that, we have 402 on the QQQ. Right now, it's kind of shuffling. It's currently at 398.5. Our support is actually around 398. If we lose that, there's 396.5 coming next, followed by 395. So as of right now, it's holding up quite nicely, kind of shuffling around this very high 390s. Not looking too bad. And we're going to be looking at the close. If we close above 400, we're going to be really bullish. It's going to be very nice to see. We could get a nice relief rally, a little bounce. If we close to where we are right now, there's still some potential for it to try to hold up, but we're going to be watching the green trend line as resistance if that ends up being the case. Right now, the QQQ failed to break the green trend line. It hasn't actually broken this yet. It tried to, it came just short. So we'll be watching to see if this could try to break that. I'm going to be watching these key levels. 398 is our support to be watching for. Let's hope it tries to hold there. There's minor support at 397, but it's not that strong. The strongest support is 396.5. That's going to be our next level if we end up losing 398. So watch these levels very carefully to see how it does. I'm not too concerned about what happens intraday because there's not really much data coming out. I'm more concerned about close. How do we close? Do we get a strong close or not? I'll be watching that as well. Last but not least, for Apple stock, since I went over pretty much everything else, I'm going to be watching this resistance right here. We had this resistance at, we basically rejected close to like 182.75, I think it is. We actually have this resistance from what I found around 182.8 to 183. And we have support at 182. Below that, we have 181 and then 180, which is kind of funny. I know it's like every dollar. One thing that's not good about Apple, and one thing that kind of annoys me, is the fact that the ranges are really tight. Okay, it's like $1. Next support is going to be like $1 away from that, and it's kind of stuck within these very tight ranges. So we're going to be watching. Does Apple hold up? Are we forming an inverse head and shoulders here like this? Could this be like a left shoulder, a head, and possibly a right shoulder? Or is Apple just going to fail us? We'll be watching these levels carefully. Let's see how we close. It's still not looking that strong. To be bullish, you want to see it close above 183.5. If we can get above that, that's going to be very good for next week. Otherwise, we're just range bound between 180 and 182.8-ish. I also want to note that if we lose 180, we're going to turn bearish. 178 is going to be our next level. 178 is going to be our support because that's where one of our 200 EMAs was there on one of the time frames. I think it's the 4-hour, but I'll have to double check that later. But that's it for now. Apple's kind of range bound, very boring. Hopefully this intraday update video was helpful. It's kind of long, guys. I'm sorry about that. There's just a lot to talk about. So watch close. Let's see how we end up close, and let's see if this move lasts. If Tesla holds a particular level, we could see a very, very bullish move. If we manage to hold and close above 240, or if we close very close to where we are, there's going to be some potential. Otherwise, this thing might just be stuck within its range for longer. So watch the close. Do we get a strong close on Tesla, or do we just shuffle for the rest of the day? I'll be watching this for market close. All right, that's it for now. Have a great day, guys. Sorry for kind of like making this video too long, and peace out.